Welcome to today's Explainer. We're unpacking a highly esoteric text today, one that treats the spiritual concepts of life and reincarnation basically like a cosmic operating system. Seriously, if you've ever wondered about the actual mechanics running behind existence, well, this source material breaks the whole thing down into some incredibly distinct systematic rules.
Right out of the gate, looking at the world around us, with the human population constantly growing and breaking new records every single day, it begs a pretty fascinating question. Are brand new lives constantly being created from scratch just to fill this ever-increasing demand?
According to the source material, the answer lies in understanding four systemic laws that govern the physics of this metaphysical universe. We'll be looking at 1. The universe's fixed capacity. 2. The pyramid of existence. 3. The gravity of reincarnation. And 4. Imprints and erasures.
Let's start right in with Section 1, the universe's fixed capacity.
Diving into this first structural pillar, think about it. If the number of humans on Earth suddenly spikes drastically, like we've literally seen happen over the last century, does that mean the cosmic system just hit generate on a massive batch of new souls to populate all those bodies? The text is completely definitive here. No, absolutely not. Those so-called new lives, they're simply reincarnating from other spaces within the exact same closed system. The source suggests that if the human population goes up, the population in another realm, like, say, hell, the plant layer, or the animal world, must be going down. It is a strict zero-sum game. To explain this, the author brilliantly uses the Earth's water cycle as an analogy. Think about it. A bowl of water doesn't just die when it evaporates in the sun, right? It just changes form. It evaporates, reincarnates as clouds, and eventually rains back down to the Earth in this continuous, closed loop. It might become an iceberg, the sea, or groundwater, but the total amount of water never actually changes. According to the text, life operates on the exact same principle. It neither increases nor decreases, it merely cycles. Which brings us to Section 2, the pyramid of existence. So how does this zero-sum game affect the population distribution across the different levels of existence? Well, the text outlines a strict cosmic hierarchy where lower levels always have greater quantities of life. It draws a really interesting parallel between human society and the cosmic order. In our society, you naturally have way more common workers than managers, more managers than mayors, and, only one president. Similarly, in the cosmic order, the amount of insects vastly outnumbers birds, grass outnumbers herbivores, animals outnumber humans, and humans outnumber celestial beings. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the text presents a fascinating mathematical paradox. Despite this strict pyramid structure we just talked about, the author notes that there are said to be 30 billion supercelestial beings in existence. Yet there are only about 7 billion humans on Earth. At first glance, this completely contradicts the rule we just learned, right? That lower life spaces must have exponentially higher populations. So how on Earth, or I guess in the universe, can there be more celestial beings than humans? Well, the text resolves this paradox by looking at it through a static versus dynamic lens. Yes, a static snapshot right now shows 30 billion celestials and only 7 billion humans. But that celestial population is static. That number hasn't changed in hundreds of millions of years because those beings don't cycle in and out of existence the way we do. Humans, on the other hand, are highly dynamic. We constantly cycle through birth and death. So dynamically speaking, the total number of humans who have existed over that same time period is actually in the trillions. And that firmly keeps humans at the much wider base of the cosmic pyramid. Moving right along to Section 3, the gravity of reincarnation. This brings us to the mechanics of actually moving through this system. And it operates very much like a kind of spiritual gravity. Just as it's way easier in our society to commit crimes than to be a flawless model citizen, the text argues that it's vastly easier to fall unconsciously into lower life spaces than it is to rise up. The path of least resistance is to just appease the flesh, rather than doing the hard work of sublimating the soul. Because the masses inherently cater to values that represent high quantity but low quality, simply following the crowd naturally pulls you downward. Because ordinary people have immense inertia. They prefer tradition, they resist new thinking, they stick to what's comfortable. The author insists that without external guidance from higher spiritual beings, we basically remain unchanged. It's just like the old saying about the leopard being unable to change its spots. The text suggests that human material doesn't just spontaneously change on its own. We just repeat the exact same cycles over and over. So the absolutely crucial point here is this.
You cannot simply wait until the moment you die to suddenly attain a celestial consciousness. There is no last-minute shortcut. The text makes it incredibly clear that qualitative change, like moving to a higher spiritual plane, is practically impossible without the daily accumulation of smaller quantitative changes. Your consciousness develops toward whatever you treasure most in your life, and you absolutely cannot overcome the gravity of your life's choices at the very last second.
And finally, we reach section 4, imprints and erasures. So, to keep this entire system from collapsing into utter psychological chaos, there are cosmic safeguards in place. The text suggests that our past lives aren't totally erased. They actually leave specific, readable imprints on our current bodies and behaviors. It compares this to how geneticists read DNA or how geologists can literally look at a landscape and read its ancient history. By observing the subtle details of how a person speaks, acts, or even looks, the text claims it's possible to infer if they were previously an animal, a celestial being, or simply human. To ascend, the text argues, a person has to actively work to eliminate these lower-level imprints. But to manage these imprints on a mass scale, the system employs what is essentially a mandatory memory wipe. The source actually references Chinese mythology here, specifically the figure of Meng Po, the Lady of Forgetfulness. According to the text, ghosts in hell who finally qualify to reincarnate upward are required to drink her ecstasy soup, and this completely erases their memories before they join the mortal world as a brand new life. Now, the author frames this not as a punishment, but as an act of profound cosmic compassion. I mean, just imagine the unthinkable psychological chaos if you retained all your memories across lifetimes. Imagine realizing that your current spouse was actually your grandmother in a past life, or, that your beloved pet used to be your child, or that your children were once your mortal enemies. Human society would instantly buckle under the sheer weight of those convoluted relationships. Because of this potential for absolute disaster, the text argues that the vast majority of people simply must live in confusion. They have to remain completely unaware of these cosmic secrets to maintain order and that dynamic balance in the universe. This is exactly why, according to the source, spiritual truths are so often hidden in codes and parables. Revealing them too directly to a world that's just totally unprepared for them would inevitably result in massive conflict. As we wrap up this explainer on the complex mechanics of samsara, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. If we assume for just a moment that this cosmic operating system is running in the background of our reality right now, well, based on your own habits, your own imprints, and your personal gravity, what mysteries is your life hiding?